Hello and welcome to Aftersound Review, and this is my review for BGVP DN3. It's quite surprising for me because they actually have released the DN2, but because of little drama, they didn't release it later, and then they decided to change it with this BGVP DN3. And let me tell you, I have tried some BGVP like the DN2 or the BGVP NS9, and for me this DN3 is actually my favorite. They cost around 75 bucks and using one dynamic driver and one balance armature, and just like usual, I will review them from the build, fit, frequency response, sound, and comparison. Okay, when it comes to the build quality, I have a mixed feeling. First of all, you need to take a look that this housing is definitely quite robust and feels good in my hand. It somehow reminds me of Hi-Fi Man HE01 when it comes to the shape itself, especially the faceplate, and I'm quite sure that it's made of aluminum, that like the tin T2plus use or the tin T5, it is feels robust and light at the same time, and the nozzle is like this, it's quite big. But nevertheless, for me, it's still quite comfortable. And this is the thing that I don't really believe in the durability is the MMCX connector. You can see there's a little gap here that I can't really push this cable more than this, and it happens to both to right and left, and my fellow reviewer also have the similar issues. And the cable itself feels so rubbery and not flexible, so I'm not sure that it will last for a long time. So for me, maybe the cable needs to be changed with a third-party cable that has better durability. As for the ergonomics, for me, they fit quite good in my small Asian ears. Like this, they just fit really well. But if I have to give a little complaint, maybe the cable itself is not really flexible and a little bit microphonic, so it gets it can be annoying sometimes, but the housing itself is quite good. Okay, talking about frequency response for this BGVP DN3, I still somehow categorize this as maybe V-shaped-ish or maybe W-shaped-ish because the elevation in the bass is definitely there, but it's not really too much. And there's elevation in upper mid-range and also treble area around this part. And please take note that 8K peak is only about a resonance peak. So here's the thing, comparing them to the Moondrop Aria, you can see that Moondrop Aria is more smoother in all frequency response. It doesn't have a more peakier upper mid-range and treble area. It's giving more smoother experience for me. But the BGVP DN3 is more exciting somehow thanks to its peak. But the treble extension for me, they are about the same. They are not really extended, but the Aria has more airiness somehow. And compared to the Wizard HE01, you can see again, the Wizard HE01 has more upper mid-range focus around this part, but has early roll-off in the treble area. So yeah, the Wizard HE01 can be more forward in the vocal at times, but the treble is somehow smoother and more subdued compared to the DN3, which is somehow can be a little bit aggressive when the song is aggressive around 5K around this part. And also comparing them with its own bigger brother, the BGVP NS9. Honestly, for me, the BGVP NS9 and also the DN3 has totally different signature, while the BGVP NS9, you can see the bass is definitely elevated. And also the mid-range, not so much. It's pretty much quite flat in my raw frequency response, and giving them somehow more bass heads experience because the bass is forward and the mid-range is quite recessed. But the DN3 is somehow more aggressive. Actually, for me, I prefer BGVP DN3 much more because of its more balanced overall bass compared to the mid-range, but I'm kind of annoyed a little bit just because of this 5K peak. But other than that, for me, BGVP DN3 has a solid tonal balance. Okay, for this BGVP DN3, I've tried them using my QLux 5K, iFX DSD, and also my iBasso DX160. And also I've tried them using my phone, the Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus, and for me, they are not really hard to drive, and I can enjoy them even if using my phone alone. Okay, let's talk about the tonality of this IM, which I consider to be double-shaped-ish. The emphasize on the frequency response is mainly on the bass and then upper mid-range, and after that there's a roll of around 4K, and after that there's a upraise again and around 6 kilohertz. So for me it's W-shaped-ish. The sound is quite energetic, quite fun, and you can tell that there's an emphasis on bass, mid, and also treble. Okay, let's talk about the bass. And for me, I really enjoy this kind of bass because it's fast and it's punchy and well controlled. But here's the thing. If you're a bass head, I'm not gonna recommend this to you because this is a fast bass, so I could really enjoy them using rock songs, maybe One OK Rock, and then Linkin Park, and some other genres like that needs a lot of fast-paced bass, like the TM Revolution, that's from Japanese band. I really enjoy hearing fast bass from this IM. It is punchy. It's not really deep, but the punchiness of it and also the speed of the bass, I really like this, enjoy this. But it's not for bass head for sure, and I still can enjoy them hearing pop music, so it's still quite really good bass and quite versatile. It's just not really bass head in quantity. And talking about the mid-range, I also really like this because the mid-range is actually pushed forward around the 2K area, and then there's a roll of around 3 to 4K, so the vocal in here, even though it's leaning towards thin, for me it's leaning toward the thinner, but it never goes shouty and still really well controlled. So when I hear Ariana Grande, I consider Ariana Grande songs to be quite shouty in some places, and in here in this DN3 I found the Ariana Grande sound in One Last Time, Focus, always sound well controlled, and then I can really enjoy them. It is still smooth and never goes too shouty or sibilance. So yeah, it's a really good, well controlled mid-range for me. And then maybe the thing that I don't really enjoy is about the treble, about the 6K. So here, the 6K emphasize is definitely giving a little bit of brilliance towards the sound signature, so it's giving energetic sound around the treble area. But the problem is it's not really extended. It just gives a little of splashiness around the cymbal crest, giving around some edge around the cymbal, and also some metallic acoustic music, but it doesn't really well extended for violins or for higher notes after the 6K. So for me, it's just a little bit spicy in some areas, but it's not extended, so I don't really enjoy the treble actually. But the overall signature of this IM is still fun, and the treble pickiness, it's only a minor issue for me. I don't really find them in all of the songs, only in some tracks. Overall, I still really enjoy this kind of tonality. And talking about the technicality, for me, it is not really huge in soundstage. It still feels like a small ball. It doesn't feel two-dimensional. Also, it just feels like a three-dimensional, but in a small space. And also, I should say that at this price point, for me, the separation is quite good. Like hearing a lot of elements from rock music, it could give good pace and also good separation between the elements of the guitar, drums, and also bass guitars, and then the effect of the music, also the vocal for me. So the separation level is actually quite good. It's just not really huge in soundstage. Okay, let's talk about the comparison. And here I have some of my benchmark for around $100. For me, compared to this T2plus, I really enjoy this T2plus. T2plus will sound more V-shaped for you thanks to its more prominent treble, but at the same time it's more extended. But the vocal area is where I found the DN3 to be better than this T2plus, where the T2plus sounds quite thin in the vocal and sometimes could get a little bit of sibilant. The DN3 is more well controlled but still forward at the same time. And also, talking about the separation level, for me they are both quite the same level actually. but the soundstage is better on the T2plus. Also, the treble extension is better on this T2plus, while this DN3 somehow can feel a little bit of metallic. But actually, I found that I enjoy the vocal and also the bass punch is more enjoyable in this DN3. It's more textured in bass and also faster, more well controlled. And compared to the Wizard HE01, it is the most different one. For me, the Wizard HE01 is more on the laid-back side. It's still more natural for some of you. Definitely, the vocal is the sweetest amongst these three, and also the treble is the most smoothest of these three. So yeah, maybe some of you will consider the Wizard HE01 somehow is the most laid back and sometimes more natural of the three. Okay, so for my final verdict for this BGVP DN3, I'm quite surprised because I have tried and reviewed the BGVP DN2, BGVP 0 and also the BGVP NS9, and I should say that this BGVP DN3 is actually my favorite one. Let's talk about the pros first. It has quick and punchy bass, and also the mid-range is quite clear. And if we are talking about the technicality, the separation level is quite good. But when it comes to the cons, the first thing that you will notice about that little gap around the MMCX and also the housing, that makes somehow the build quality is not really good. But aside from that, for me the most annoying part about this DN3 is that peak around 5K that somehow makes it sometimes it can be a little bit aggressive on the treble, so it could make some sibilance in some songs. But other than that, for me that's quite a solid product from BGVP, and like I said, this is my favorite BGVP product yet. Okay, I think that's all. If you have any question, please write down in the comment below, and see you next time. Bye bye.